get by. It resides between my eyes. Walked through the fire, came out better on the other side. See, life's like a beach if you find the sand. And right now, I feel like 100 grand.
You are listening to Inspired Insider with your host, Dr. Jeremy Wise.
Dr. Jeremy Weiss here. I'm the founder of InspiredInsider.com, where I talk with inspirational entrepreneurs and leaders. Today is no different. I have Matthew Loop. You can check him out at MatthewLoop.com. Also, Profit365.org/SMRS, because he does an amazing event every year. So that's where you can check that out. And Matthew and I have known each other for a long time, actually. This is what got me started into podcasting. As a chiropractor into podcasting, because it was, 2007, 8. He's been doing social media for that, helping people with it for that amount of time. We met in person at Yannick Silver's underground event. And we've followed kind of parallel paths in that respect. So before I formally introduce Matt, I'm just launching right into it. A couple past episodes I want to mention that are awesome. Since Matt has an amazing book, which I'm going to talk about, some of the top authors I've had on the podcast, I figured I'd mention for this one. And Matt, I'll hear some of your favorites, because I know you are an avid business reader too. I had Michael Gerber of the E-Myth. That was a great episode. Chris Voss of Never Split the Difference. Perry Marshall, 80/20 Sales and Marketing, one of my favorites. Dan Cushell, it's actually how we reconnected. Thank you, Dan. Dan Cushell wrote Direct Response Branding. Matt, what are some of your favorites of all time? I know Dan Kennedy's a favorite. What else?
Yeah, Dan Kennedy's got a ton of great books there. One of the best books that I've read recently was co-authored by Roland Frazier and Jay Abraham. It's called Business Wealth Without Risk. And that's a fantastic book in regards to business acquisitions, such like that. You mentioned E-Myth, Michael Gerber, which is a classic and totally changed the trajectory of my life. And then there was Influence the Psychology of Persuasion, Robert Cialdini, again, talking about buying habits and why people make their decisions and things like that. So, I kind of fluctuate between health and medicine versus the business books, the entrepreneurial space, and lots of great stuff. Any health ones? I love the Blue Zones. If anyone's checked out the Blue Zones, he has got 2 books there. That's some of my favorites. Any of yours? It's funny because I got this as my mouse pad right now. An old book, Fasting Can Save Your Life by Herbert Shelton. It's all about before fasting became really popular. Great to help reset your body, get the garbage out, and then ultimately promote health and healing. So I do like the old stuff periodically, and then there's some amazing individuals that are doing great research in that field today. Yeah, love it. I have some Audible credits, so I figured you'd give me some good ones. Those are good ones. And Roland Frazier has been on the show too, so you can check that episode out. Mm-hmm. This episode is brought to you by Rise 25. Rise 25, we help businesses give to and connect to their dream relationships and partnerships. We do that in 2 ways. One, we're an easy button for a company to launch and run a podcast. We do the strategy, the accountability, and the full execution production. Number 2, we're an easy button for a company's corporate gifting. So we make gifting and staying top of mind to your clients, partners, patients, prospects, simple and seamless and affordable. Even people send it to their staff from a culture perspective. All you do is give us a list of the people. We curate the gifts. We create the messaging. We put your branding and everything, and we're off to the races. So, Matt, we call ourselves kind of the magic elves that run in the background to make it stress-free to build amazing relationships in your business. Like for me, the number one thing in my life is relationships. And over the past decade, I found no better way to, 1, profile the people I admire on my podcast, and 2, send them sweet treats in the mail. So you can check it out, rise25.com, or email us at support@rise25.com. And I'm excited to introduce Matthew Loop. He's a best-selling author, as I mentioned, of Social Media Made Me Rich. He's an investor, NASDAQ speaker, a social media profit strategist. And what he does essentially is he helps business owners multiply their monthly income. He does that by helping you harness powerful platforms like Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, Google, Instagram. And back in the day, he started in MySpace in 2005. But it's the same methodology, the same concepts, the same strategies.
which he's trained over 43,000 business owners in over 25 countries on. So, Matt, thanks for joining me.
Pleasure, Jeremy. Happy to be here.
So let's just launch into just start off and talk to people about your company and what you do.
Yes, so I'm an investor and social media profit strategist. I partner on some deals where we'll help build the company and then maybe exit in 3 to 5 years. But traditionally, I've usually uncovered those areas of low-hanging fruit in any business to where we can 3 to 10x very, very fast. And so, like you said, initially got started in the chiropractic profession and got really good at a little social network called MySpace. Of course, nobody knew what social media would become. And then YouTube dropped in 2006 afterward. And I've just had my finger on the pulse ever since from that point and just figured out earlier, wow, we can get more traffic this way. We can convert that traffic this way. And lo and behold, the world is possible when you dial and use it in a certain way.
And then also talk about the event for a second. So you not only help companies, but you have an event every year.
Sure, we host a couple events. Our flagship training is in Atlanta at the Porsche Experience Center, Social Media Revenue Summit. So we'll have doctors, entrepreneurs, business owners come out from pretty much all walks of the states and sometimes overseas. And that is a immersive growth training. So the first half of the day is about business growth, trends, new social media growth strategies. We do some AI in there. And then the second half of the day is really about creating additional streams of income because I believe that having one stream in today's economy and environment and all this chaos is very risky. I don't care what business you have. We need to be bulletproof. And if you look at even Forbes or the IRS, they talk about the average multimillionaire has over like 8 sources of income themselves. I think we should definitely follow the tried and true and diversify.
Let's hit on that topic for a second, which is additional streams of income, especially in a service-based business. I was just talking to someone earlier today. I know you work with a lot of functional medicine doctors, chiropractors, I mean, across all niches, but there's a lot there just because that's where you started. And a lot of them are trading time for dollars. It could be high dollars, right? It's fine. But talk about some of the additional streams of income that you talk about. And some people are like, well, man, I don't have any time for anything. I'm already busy enough. But what are some of the things you think about when it comes to that?
Well, when I got started, I began to harness the internet. So affiliate marketing was my first channel into building additional streams. And way back in the day, do you remember a program called Traffic Geyser by chance?
Sure. I mean, I was chatting with Mike Koenigs about this. I saw him at a Joe Polish Genius Network event, and we were chatting about that way back when.
Yeah, well, that was my first venture into affiliate marketing, and I turned that little
So
side
for
thing.
people, just talk about affiliate marketing, like how that works, just for people, because I think it's people understand it, and it could be a lot of different things.
It's essentially where you will take somebody else's product or their service and you will drive traffic to, let's say, the website, and then you get paid a commission. You don't have to accept any payments. You don't have to recruit any family members or whatever. You don't have any inventory to stock. You just connect two people, you get a commission. The world's largest companies use this model: Best Buy, Target, Walmart, Amazon. So it's nothing new. And then when I got immersed into the online marketing space, I found out about this little gem. And so way back in the day, 2005, 2006, you would take a video and upload it to this software and it would disperse it out to dozens of channels. And then you would also get Google rankings relatively quick with that. And I said, this is amazing. I was using it successfully to grow my own brand and my practice. And I said, well, I could probably recommend this to doctors. And I found that they had an affiliate program that paid recurring, meaning I could send somebody there, they sign up, and I would get paid, I don't know what it was, like $35 per month for one person. Well, I turned that eventually into a 5-figure per month affiliate income stream with just like everything was kind of automated and I was already referring. So that's one way that you can create a separate powerful income stream through a product or service that you're already using. One of my functional medicine doctors that I was working with, he was recommending infrared saunas, for instance, like 3 to 5 a month. I mean, and people were buying these three to $5,000 infrared saunas. When I started coaching him, I said, "Do they have an affiliate program?" And he looked at me, like, what is that? And so we started looking, and they did. And now he gets paid $500 per referral,
Yeah.
which is
That could
very
be like,
substantial.
yeah, it could be like $30,000 a year.
that's life-changing for some people, right? So that's essentially what that model is. You're connecting to like the
Yeah,
actual
and like
business.
that's the great thing about I find about chiropractors, they just want to help and not necessarily thinking, oh, I want to make money from this, but like it could be stuff that you're already recommending. Like I would always recommend like the Tempur-Pedic products. And so, they have a good commission there if you send them for the beds or mattresses or pillows. So it's stuff that I already believe in or someone already believes in and are doing.
100%. I had even most recently, I didn't even know this existed until about a year ago in the banking world. Like, so I connected with an SBA lender, and turns out a lot of banks have, they don't call it affiliate programs, they call it partner programs or whatever. So I connected a individual that needed an SBA loan with a lender. The deal closed, and bam, all of a sudden I get like 1%. I think it was an $850,000 loan, 8,500 just like that from one simple connection and referral. That's just one of many different examples, but you can find it in any industry.
Yeah. Like what other things do you find people recommend? So I mean, nutritional supplements are one, probably products are one, like the sauna or um, mattress or
It-
pillow, anything else that people are,
I mean, books, anything you can think of likely has an affiliate program attached to it. And if it doesn't, if it's a product or service that you're using, whether it's digitally or whether it's a physical product, you could find somebody that does. For instance, ClickBank, which is a well-known affiliate marketplace, that was, I used to promote digital products where they were ebooks and whatnot, and I would send traffic there and get a commission the same exact way. So the model exists in pretty much every industry.
yeah. So it started with affiliate marketing. What else from like additional streams of revenue?
Yeah, and then I just basically compounded upon that to where I started dabbling with Amazon initially way back in 2007, 2008, selling private label products on Amazon. And then I had my own book that I realized that, okay, you can launch a book, not just for the authority side of the equation, but to actually make money and back end that with whether it's coaching, seminars, and masterminds and all that other stuff. So that was another stream. I had my course or my online course since about 2006, which was another way that was producing passive sales for a very long time that, I work with a lot of clients and doing. And then you've got things nowadays, like whether it's short-term rentals and real estate. We do short and long-term rentals for passive income, but also business acquisitions, meaning you're buying businesses in different areas for cash flow. Sometimes you can just keep them for the monthly income, and or if you know a thing or two about marketing, you can keep them in and actually grow the business. This doesn't mean that you want to be operating the business. That's totally separate. So you got to find the right deal and understand your acquisition criteria, but it's a very fast way to scale to the level of extra income that you want very quickly. While if you want to maintain your primary work, job, practice, business, you can. And or if you're looking to reinvent yourself, you can do that too.
I know as of recently you have a focus on the business side, the acquisition side. Can you talk a little bit about what criteria you're looking at and how you think about that?
Sure, sure. And it's life changing, by the way, and we never know where our paths are going to shift and veer. I started serving a lot of doctors early on and then had this massive list, people that bought my online courses, coaching. And eventually I said, well, this business acquisition side, this is Mark Zuckerberg, Elon Musk, all the top entrepreneurs in the world. I mean, look at what did Mark Zuckerberg acquire? WhatsApp.
I
And
mean, he's
then
acquired a couple things. I think they acquired Oculus. Yeah, a number. I mean, if you look at
Instagram.
Salesforce,
Yeah, yeah.
Salesforce has grown by I mean, one of the ways is acquiring a lot of companies too.
100%. Yeah. And so you start to look at the highest performers, wealthiest people in the world, and this is one of those common denominators that they have. And once I figured this out, it was like the cheat code. I was like, oh, I can't believe I didn't know this earlier on. Because if you do it right, and if you, like you said, if you're very specific about what you want, if I don't want to work in the business, I need to find a business that it already has the professional management in place, and or there are things that could be created very, very fast where I am going to still be above that business. So we're typically playing in the space where we're acquiring, about I would say 1 to 2 million in top line revenue, usually at a 30 or above profit margin, at least 5 employees, because there's got to be a number two, and or potentially the owner might want to stay on. We've done service-based businesses, software, got experience in that, healthcare, pretty much a lot of the like those are the probably primary three, security and whatnot. But there's a large opportunity in particular to where you figure out, let's say if you want to make an additional $10,000 a month in cash flow, and could be a local business that's down the street somebody needs to sell. If you understand about positioning yourself as an investor or somebody to help, that could literally be one acquisition. People sell all the time, by the way, because life happens. I mean, people have health conditions. They need to relocate. God forbid divorce happen. There's just real reasons why somebody would or needs to get out relatively soon from a profitable business. So you can actually create win-win scenarios with these people and sometimes just keep them involved, but at a much, much lesser load. So everyone wins in the scenario.
Yeah, talk about, I know the from the criteria perspective, okay, it could be 1 to 2 million top line, 30% profit, 5 staff. What's the owner mindset that you want? Like, are you wanting them to stay? Are you basically wanting to leave and put in management? What, from the owner perspective, what could they expect? I mean, I'm
Could
sure
be,
there's a
yeah.
lot of, variables there, but what's ideal in your mind?
Could be either or. And before I like answer that question, I also wanted to say, like, when you do look for it, and you already know this too, but it's easier to, if you're going to make a sale in any business, if you could find a model that's recurring revenue, like Amazon. People think of Amazon and buying new products, but most of the vast majority are people recurring. So I love stuff that's corona proof, that's recession proof, that has that recurring income model. And we were talking before on the last call about one of our acquisitions was a sign language interpreting agency, because deaf individuals, they're with that condition for life. And, so from a recurring standpoint, it's just there. It meets that criteria. Now, the owners themselves, yeah, I've seen deals where the owner might stay on and have some type of profit share. They just don't want to run the business. That's a beautiful thing, because now you can, I guess you'd give them quote unquote the golden handcuffs. Now, if there's a number two in the organization, they could possibly buy in and or bump them up with some type of phantom equity profit share or whatnot. That's also a great thing. Yeah, and then the other scenario would be, yes, where they're completely transitioning out for whatever reason. But if you went that down that road, then you need to be very transparent and honest with yourself. Like, because some deals that we've done, for example, I knew I was going to be in the weeds in that business, at least for the first few months, to set up the team to make sure. And I was willing to do that on one or two of those deals. But you might not be willing to do that and understand the time commitments. And by the way, if an owner says, yeah, I work, 30 hours in the business every week, they're probably working like 50 to 60. So just an FYI.
Yeah, I don't need that many people. I just need 4 people to replace me. No. Um, I want to get into talking about, I do want to mention, I love the thought of that, the recurring piece. I did an interview mentioning the books piece with John Warlow, who wrote Built to Sell. And if anyone wants to listen to that, he talks about some of the essential criteria as well, as Matt just said, which includes looking for that recurring revenue piece. This is going to be a broad question, I guess, but when you mentioned you had to get in the weeds, you have to set things up, you have to set team up. I'm curious, any of your favorite tools and software that you use in the business. Like for us, I know we use, like Slack and ClickUp for project management, and Active Campaign from like an email and pipeline perspective. We've used things like Pipedrive before. Things like LastPass with the team. I'm curious some of your favorite software that they're go-to for you.
Yeah, and this will also depend on how tech the business is, because there have been businesses where it's literally one that I'm thinking of. There was like one or two reviews online, no website. It was a relationship
No website.
It was a relationship type of business, a $2 million a year business, and I had to do a double take. The P&L statement was like this big. Like, what is how is that even possible? Well, this person was doing three different jobs in the business, and definitely bootstrapping. So that was more of like an older model that needed to be brought into the new world, right? And so even a simple like there was no email management system, no Active Campaign, Mailchimp, or whatever program that you're using in there. And there's, for example, in this one business, we used a program called TalkRoute, and TalkRoute essentially allows a team to go in and, if you have multiple people doing certain customer support style activities, everyone can kind of see the thread. So it makes training a little bit easier when you're doing, I guess, for the managers and the support. Of course, high level Kartra, those are great platforms that we've used in the past as well. But yeah, so I mean, I guess it depends on the technical aspect of the business. Basecamp, we've used a lot for project management software. I'm not saying these are the best ones out there. It's just something that we've used in the past. And
Yeah, I mean, people use a variety. I mean, whatever. They all can serve a similar function from Monday to Trello to ClickUp to Basecamp to
mhm, mhm,
whatever. But if I was talking to someone earlier today and they were using spreadsheets. So I'm like, and they were super productive, really organized. And I was like, you would just dominate if you actually used a project management tool as opposed to a spreadsheet. So a lot of these have free versions too. Like you don't have to pay. I mean,
mhm.
Trello, we use a Trello for some functions and ClickUp for some functions. So no, totally. I want to talk about um, social. I mean, when I think of social and I think of medical professionals, chiropractors, functional medicine doctors, I think of you. So talk about maybe some trends in social.
Yeah, well, the landscape shifts very quickly right now, and especially even, when I catch my mother, or even was it the F1 in Miami? Was that 3, 4 weeks ago? I was down there with a separate group, and one of the guy was telling me, he's like, "Hey, uh, you know, I'm searching for best Italian restaurants in Miami, and he's on TikTok and he's searching." And so, what I think a lot of people fail to realize, business owners as entrepreneurs, is just how much market share Google is losing to a lot of search apps. I'm not even talking about ChatGPT right now. I'm just talking about social apps, I should say, like Instagram, TikTok, because it's easier, especially for the younger generation, to go top three Italian restaurants in Atlanta versus reading a 1,000 word blog post on Google. So there's substantial disruption there. And way back in the day in 2006, one of the first strategy that I would have a lot of my clients do is like, hey, let's go to the Google's keyword tool. And by the way, we know people are searching for back specialists in San Diego, where they're searching all these terms. You need to make videos, title, tag, and describe them, have the keywords rich and all these things. The same thing's happening now with TikTok. To be able to optimize for specific keywords, not just local, but whatever industry or niche that you're in. And if you do that right, if it's title, if your keywords are mentioned in the video, if it's relevant content, and you're getting the watches, the rewatches, all the social shares and engagements, that video is going to get indexed really high in those social channels, which ultimately means a ton of traffic if you do it right. So that's worth paying attention to. And I can't see that dying down anytime soon. I'm sure Google will certainly pivot as they always do. But that's one thing right now that you could be very aware of and start to map out a content strategy specifically that dials in based on keyword searches on social.
I want to talk about mistakes people make, maybe specifically with creating videos and content. But I know for me, I mean, listen, I don't know, we call it recovering chiropractor. I don't see patients anymore, but um, I will watch those adjusting videos all day. And there's some that are in different states. I'm like, when I go to that state, I'm going to go see that person. I'll pay for an adjustment. I don't care. And I
Yeah.
could probably go to
Uh-huh.
any state and they're like, oh yeah, they'll
Uh-huh.
adjust me. I'll adjust them type of thing. But
Uh-huh.
um, they are compelling. You're like, oh, I want to get an adjustment from that person. I've watched like 1,000 of their adjusting videos.
Uh-huh.
So, but I know I've heard you talk about you can do those wrong, right? Because people are like, oh, just strap a mic to them, but like you could do those wrong. But so I'm just curious, what are some mistakes, do's and don'ts on the creating the video side? We can talk
Yeah,
about chiropractors specifically if you want.
well, I think that it's important to understand how people consume content, and the fact that you don't really need to be super polished, number one. So if you look at all social media, lo-fi content typically performs better. And what I mean by lo-fi content is I mean content just shot from the iPhone that actually has some degree of movement. You're not standing in front of a whiteboard, typically doing nothing and talking. If there's motion, if there's props, if you're getting them to stop that scroll as they're coming down, and you ask a question maybe to interrupt their pattern, in combination with the movement and the hook, like all these things kind of work together to get somebody to lean in. Now, some people, like you mentioned, chiropractors. Now, of course, a pattern interrupt could be where the start of the video, you hear the popping sound or whatever. But that kind of, you have to determine how you want to have your brand shown out there. There are some docs in particular that they like the sensational. It drives clicks and it'll drive people through the door. There are other doctors where they do a very elegant job of doing case studies to literally where somebody is debilitated walking through, and you see you have the story that you can see from debilitated to all of a sudden, walking out the door in 5 visits, and your tears coming down your face. So, and you can use that story element, and you should, in whatever business that you have, because that's a marketing strategy as old as time. And if you can dial that in on social, like one of my favorite things to do with anyone that I work with is I like to understand their story and why they do what they do and their challenges, because we can craft that into a very subtle piece, and we turn it into an ad, but it doesn't look like an ad on like a Facebook or Instagram. And you probably already know this, but of course on all these channels, we can retarget. We can show a great piece of content, a story, and come back around on the back end and hit them with now videos or testimonials and all of these different things, just like you would send out emails every week. Now they're in your sphere. So whenever I go into a new market or somebody that's really not doing much online, I love just leading, hammering the story, because I know we can get the cost per engagement really, really low. And another beautiful thing is that stories are very sticky in your mind. So if you got, 10, I don't know, 10 people in the city of Atlanta that are HVAC business owners, for instance, and they're all doing the same direct response ads, you're gonna have a degree of banner blindness, because it's gonna just mix in with everyone else, which means that drives the cost per acquisition way up. So it's about cutting through the noise, and I haven't seen anything do that better than a really powerful story.
I'm gonna just, this applies to any business, really, right? I mean, we're talking chiropractic, you talk about HVAC service professionals, but you don't need to be polished. Okay. It doesn't need to be perfectly polished. Actually, it's more authentic, seems more believable when it's not. And I've talked to people who do social ads for like celebrities and influencers, and they said like they want to be polished because like a lot of people will see it. There's a lot at stake,
Mhm.
and they have found with their testing that once they just pull up their phone, like you said, they haven't fixed their hair and makeup, are convert way better than the ones where they have done their makeup, they've done their hair, everything's polished because it's more authentic. And then you said questions, obviously stories, movement, a hook, having a pattern interrupt, and like those going back to the kind of the case stories, like sharing the compelling stories. Are there any other like must do's when people are thinking about creating content online?
100%. I think that it's important to humanize yourself in such a way that we all know social media is a highlight reel, right? I mean, we're always featuring this, our awards, our accolades. Hey, look at me, I'm speaking here. But people got to know you're a real individual. I mean, sometimes life happens. Like I posted, well, like one of my most popular posts, aside from me shooting a machine gun that got like 34 million views.
Did it really?
Yeah, it was wild. We did a seminar in Las Vegas and went to a place called Battlefield Vegas, and shooting tanks, flamethrowers, and all this stuff, and just big kid stuff. And yeah, it turns out people like machine guns. So, but I did a video, or no, it was a post about we have a rental portfolio, and sometimes things happen. It's not all sunshine and rainbows there. And so yeah, it was broke. One of our tenants got broken in, windows crushed, and this and that. So I took a picture and told a whole story around it. That's life. Life happens to everyone, right? And that cost quite a bit of money. And so I think if you feature your screw ups or things that are not necessarily like, they're the stuff that sometimes I think maybe we're scared to feature because Perception is very important in many businesses, absolutely. But I believe that people do business with other humans at the end of the day. And I can't even tell you if I looked at the last 5 years in particular, this kind of also goes into social media content about taking a stand on certain things. They know you for a certain thing, a producer or a social media person, but when push comes to shove and they're going to select you from another person, one of those factors is, do you believe what I believe? Do we resonate on a much, much deeper level? And I wish more creators and business owners understood that. I'm not saying you need to get super political or anything like that, but it's important to reveal a personal side of yourself and to allow people in to all aspects of your life to some degree.
It takes it's like a muscle. It takes practice of flexing that because it's not natural. Like you said, I think the vulnerability does attract people because they feel like they're human, they're real, and people can relate to it than just the, like you said, the highlight reel. So, that's a great point. What about on the chiropractic side? What are mistakes people making with content when they're like, yeah, I want to do this. It sounds great, and they probably tested a few things. What mistakes are you seeing there?
Chiropractors are notorious for starting something and not finishing. I mean, there's several things about it, but so there's going to be momentum that gets built, and yeah, I've posted for 2 weeks, and now I'm not consistent anymore. So the inconsistency just it hurts so many, and also the fact that like a lot of them, and it's a beautiful profession, very very rewarding, and a lot of well-intentioned doctors, but they're just a lot of them aren't used to understanding about shaping a market perception to where if I'm doing a podcast for, let's say, 2 years every single day or putting videos and I'm putting them on YouTube and all these other channels, I'm getting 2 videos, 5 views. A lot of them don't even think that I should probably put some dollars behind this great content because the social algorithms, the way that they're structured, they want you to pay. Most of them, they want you to pay for the visibility. It's not that your content sucks. I mean, sometimes it might not be the greatest, but they want to get your money. So you have to apply some dollars behind your best content so you can reach more people in the audience. So it's like you're spending all this time and you've got good content, but you don't have the distribution. You need the distribution. And I'm not talking about just a simple direct response back pain style ad. You've got to amplify your story. You have to amplify your testimonials. You have to amplify certain things to get the market to believe things about you. And I think it might have been Dan Kennedy that said something like this or similar. If you don't teach people what to think of your brand, they're going to think something else, and it's never going to be what you want. And that's just true of any business. So it's the lack of proactive training of the market in a lot of cases that really hurts them, in that field.
You talked about this, so how important organic versus paid is. You did a talk, I don't know how many years ago, but I watched it, and I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, but you said who spent more than $500. This is the room full of chiropractors, and like out of 600 people, I think six raised their hand. And so like retargeting is like kind of on the next level. Like people aren't even doing anything as far as paid, right?
Yeah, there's a big deficiency. I've always believed that you have to combine, I guess, the three pillar. Like you've got the organic, and on a platform like a TikTok, you have an opportunity to go viral, like millions and millions and millions, which is great, but you don't have that on other channels usually. And then you've got the paid advertising, which not just the direct response, but in that paid advertising, there should be part of it is you're paying for your content to get disseminated at a much larger scale and the branding and the goodwill and such. And so like and then the other side of the equation would be the positioning and also training the market what to think. So I think that there has to be more of a proactive effort using all of those together because eventually your pillars should be like the Parthenon. If one goes down, you've got all these other pillars supporting the structure, not from just all of these social channels, but different layers inside of these channels, organic versus paid. I want to be bulletproof. I don't know what Google's going to do tomorrow. I don't know what Facebook's going to do tomorrow. I've been shadow banned on Facebook before, and when a lot of your business comes from those platforms, like, oh, wait a minute, wait a minute here, you need to rethink some things. So I just don't like having all my eggs in one basket, and or I understand the temptation to be like, well, if it doesn't go viral organically, I mean, some people have this, I want to know what I would call it. Um, I don't want to say they're superior. They feel they shouldn't have to pay for ads or something. But I think it's the way that they're looking at the advertising is like, my goal is to reach as many people as possible because I have something that can transform lives. And if you believe that, you need to commit to some type of monthly budget to amplify your content, at least so you can help more people and obviously help your family. I mean, it's a win-win all the way around.
Yeah, I mean, even if I find, yes, like obviously people want clients, customers, patients from it, but even just driving traffic and you get views, if someone does come to it, if like, oh, there's two views on this, it doesn't just either consciously or unconsciously, they're thinking this is not credible. I mean, there's not authority there. There's
Mhm,
not
mhm.
positioning there. So even if they do it and they're like, oh, if I see a video, someone drove traffic. I had one of the founders of Harmon Brothers on, right? And if anyone's heard of Harmon Brothers, they did those viral like the Squatty Potty ads where
Yeah.
the unicorn's pooping ice
Uh-huh.
cream, like a soft serve. I don't know if you've seen it.
I saw that.
Yeah, and so they think people think those. This to your point, those ads go viral, right? And they help drive hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars for these brands. And when he talked about it in the interview, it was like, Jeremy, things don't just go viral. We put lots of money, paid ads to drive traffic, and then it starts going viral after we've already made it go viral with paid ads.
Yep.
So
Yep.
it took that initiation. You know what I mean?
You actually bring up a good point because I've done this with quite a few clients as well. Like a story ad, for example. You push it out there, the story now all of a sudden gets thousands of likes, comments, and shares because you've paid for advertising to the ideal market. And then you're right, you start to get now more shares because people are clicking like, why does this story have thousands of views or likes and comments? So it makes them curious. So very good point.
Totally. That gets me to positioning. All right. I know you talk about, we were chatting before we hit record about mistakes people make with positioning. Um, Talk about that for a second. What do you think of when you think of positioning, first of all?
I think of if you win the positioning game, uh, you could call it positioning preeminence, elevating your status. You're 95% of the way there. So people see within 5 seconds they come across your content or your website, you look the part. And there are certain things that I've realized over the years that dramatically elevate your positioning when they're considering you versus anyone else. Like I had the opportunity to go to Sir Richard Branson's private island twice, hang out with him, and I got one of the pictures. Imagine a billionaire philanthropist serving you lamb tandoori in a pirate costume. It was a wild experience. But social media people are a dime a dozen. Now, I wrote the book on social media. Social media made me rich. Here's how I can do the same for you. So, two things is one, you got to have a book. I don't care what industry that you're in. It's old school, but it's less than 1% of the population writes a book. So it is an ultra positioning factor when you have that differentiates. And the book should absolutely be quality. It shouldn't be a 15 pager advertisement. It needs to be great because that'll get you into places that you wouldn't be able to get otherwise. So that's one thing. The second that I mentioned was the celebrity attachment. Getting the right people in the right situations and circumstances. So potentially you're getting photos with these influencers because it shapes the narrative. Now, you don't have to, everything you do in your marketing should absolutely be truthful. If they're not a client, you can't say that they're a client, but people start to wonder, and you should tell stories around these things. Public speaking is another one. So I'm very intentional about the markets that we go into, for instance, and sharing clips of me speaking or photos that position me in front of crowds because I know that, again, less than 1% of the population does that. And people look at authors, speakers, and trainers as a quote unquote higher status, if you will. You know, there are things like getting featured on TV would be another great example. Um, Based on your profile and your bio being an investor, there's all these notches in the belt, is what I'm saying. And then if people come across and they see these things lining up, you just automatically have this unique selling proposition, this differentiating factor that now they're going to tune in. The skepticism goes way down because people are extremely cynical today online. and at least you can get your foot in the door to get them a message and maybe get on the phone with them. So it's just that's the game right there, understanding human psychology and why people make the buying decisions. So then, and another factor would be like if you've got hundreds or thousands of testimonials and reviews online, that's another notch in that belt to where you're just the person to go to. So I always love understanding why people make those decisions. And when you have all of them working for you, you get paid a lot more, and it's just easier to attract your ideal person.
Yeah, I mean, social proof, credibility, all those things add up. And one of the things you mentioned a few times, and I'd like to dig a little bit deeper on, is getting in the room with amazing people, which means masterminds or conferences. So I'm wondering some of your favorites. I mean, obviously you run one and
Yeah,
people could
yeah,
check it out there. And some of the biggest leaps I've had in my life and my business comes from going in person, meeting people, hanging out with like-minded individuals. So I'd love to hear some of your favorite conferences, masterminds. I know we were at the Yannick Underground. I know you are part of Yannick's group, the Maverick
yeah,
group. You
yeah.
obviously run profit365.org, as I
hmm
mentioned, /SMRS, so people can check that out. What are some other favorite conferences, masterminds?
Yeah, so I'm in several different masterminds for the same reason. Relationship capital is the game, and you could take everything away from us. And t tomorrow we still have the relationships. And I think that even though I love social media and all of these online things, that it's been very lucrative and amazing for my family and I, that is the key right there. And so, yes, I have my own separate mastermind called our Freedom Alliance Mastermind. I'm in Roland Fraser's Epic Board, which is where initially I really got to learn mergers and acquisitions, and that was just a life changer for me. You mentioned Yannick Silver and Sophia Umansky, their Maverick 1000 group. Another amazing group of individuals, high performers, people that are just using business as a force for good in the world. Um, Mark Evans, his DM Alliance is a fantastic mastermind as well. Mark is just a genius when it comes to real estate and also business. He's been in the game a very long time. So I've learned a lot from him and just, again, so many others. There's another one, the Ultimate Achievers Club, more of like a chiropractic and health related on that side, but some brilliant people in that mastermind as well. So I like to practice what I preach, and I have found just like you, the biggest gains is when I'm showing up in the room. And for what it's worth, very few people show up these days. And I think that Corona, COVID, I think that it set, I mean, this is good or bad, depends on what side of the spectrum you're on, because it's a lot easier to get in front of the right people because so few are showing up to these events. So I mean, never has it been great to get face-to-face time with just incredible influencers to build real relationships. But, Zoom is nice, but it's not the same.
I'm curious, Matt, on the chiropractic front. I've been um, I have not had my finger on the pulse of anything as far as that goes for a while. I'm curious, if I started mentioning some of the groups and consulting groups and practice management, you'd probably laugh of like who pops into my mind because maybe they're gone, um, or they're not that popular anymore. Who are some of when you think of chiropractic groups or influencers that you respect nowadays? You mentioned the Ultimate Achievement Club. I don't know who are some of the people in the space that are doing cool things.
Yeah, there's a lot of great people. I mean, you've got Ultimate Achievers Club is ran by a board of doctors, Alan Miner, Stephen Franson, um, Brian Capra. There are several people on the board there. A friend and colleague of mine, Dr. Josiah Fitzsimmons, he's doing some pretty amazing things in not just consulting, but bookkeeping. Dr. Noel Lloyd and Five Star Management, him and Dr. George Bernbach. I mean, I could list a whole,
I'm just curious,
list.
like who's like the practice management groups now that are popular? I don't.
Yeah, I mean, every doctor has different style. I've been fortunate over the years, which is really cool to kind of be, quote, a free agent, which meant like I just built a lot of good relationships and helped people. I've consulted them, shown them how to use social media. They've been very generous with their communities, and I've spoken at so many events. Uh, just so many events over the years, and I've always tried to lead with value and be an asset, and not get too clicky myself because in some spaces, people get click, and I think that if you need to always be open to learning, and some people and groups might have amazing, let's say, treatment procedures, protocols, and communication, while others might be just fantastic at like the marketing or the advertising. So I think it's important to always be open
Yeah,
to
they
new
have maybe
information.
their specialty or they
Yeah.
have their thing. I'm like, what are the go-to conferences? Like a must go to, like a chiropractor who's, let's say in the business side, right? There's clinical stuff where they were getting certifications and things like that. But I'm thinking when you're thinking, I mean, it used to be Parker seminars. I don't even know, are they popular still?
Parker, but yes, Parker still has, I believe, the most attended seminar.
Okay.
Now, of course, I'm biased when I say our social media revenue summit from a social media standpoint, but
Yeah.
quite honestly, that's the number one growth event in the health professions because I just keep my finger on the pulse and we bring in some pretty amazing talent with speakers. But yeah, Parker still does events. Billy DeMoss with CalJam. I think he's restarting it up this year. He attracts thousands of people and mission-driven doctors that are concerned not just about it's a combination of things, more so like healthcare, using, I guess, using business as a force for good, consumer advocacy, like stuff that is, like things that kind of we know from decades now are finally becoming more mainstream and like, oh yeah, turns out you shouldn't put chemicals in the food or die like the obvious stuff that now is gaining traction under this administration,
Yeah. It
right?
sounds ridiculous when I think like people thought I was insane for buying a $500 Vitamix blender 20 years ago. I mean, they're like, "Are you crazy?"
Because
Right?
there's
And
there's
now, yeah, obviously you can get it at Costco. It's cheaper now than it was obviously when I got it,
Mhm.
but yeah, it's the stuff that we were learning kind of natural health that was normal, but it took society a little bit of time to catch up.
Yeah. So, but lots of great events, certainly in the profession, and some are just local state organizations as well. You've got the Florida Chiropractic Association that's still pretty large, and then yeah, just minor consulting groups all around.
I want to get in. Thanks for sharing that. I was just curious. Like, I have no idea if it's still the same, but some of the work you've done, just to highlight how it works a little bit. And can you talk about Sachin Patel, Dr. Sachin Patel, for a second?
Yeah, he's a great friend of mine. Excuse me, I would consider him even a mentor. He's just very knowledgeable in just many walks of life. And so I worked with him and his team several years ago. He attended our first two social media revenue summits, and he's been back a couple times. He even spoke there last year. But he credits me with helping him generate over $1 million with the use of social media, which I mean is fantastic, and I don't take very lightly because I really love to generate and create systems or at least help others implement. One of my strengths has always been to if I can get into a business or a practice and look under the hood and see like, oh yeah, we can modify this, tweak this here. I love the concierge training to where you've got the team. I can train your team. Bam. Let's have it on your end. You can keep your finger on the pulse and I can just like make these minor tweaks and then just see it shoot up. That was a great example of just, he's a very motivated individual, very purpose driven, out to change the world. And when that fuses with my knowledge, good things happen.
Do you remember? And I've seen his stuff. It's great.
Yeah.
Do you remember a takeaway from him and his team? Something that you shared?
In terms of
Yeah, it was just anything that you shared that like, oh, this is like a light bulb went on for them, or there was a takeaway that was helpful for them to get to the next level.
Yeah, I think if I recall back in the day, most of the stuff that we did was initially getting centered with targeting and paid ads, because this was before that they were doing any type of paid social advertising at all. Learning the targeting, learning the key performance metrics, when to shift, and eventually they brought a whole in-house team, after like what we modeled. But yeah, that's one of the
Yeah,
things I remember.
targeting's key. Yeah.
Mhm.
And then Barbara. Can you talk about Barbara for a second?
Yeah, Barbara, she's a wonderful person. She's a coach, and she's helped a lot of doctors and professionals build bigger practices and whatnot. And so when we connected, she wasn't really doing much online at all. Actually, she did have a kind of a generic webinar funnel that she got from a pretty well-known name, and it was okay, but it wasn't her message and styling. So we altered that, and I really just helped her with messaging. Also, we created this. giveaway, and regardless of what industry that you're in, you should always have your ethical bribe, your lead mag. You should always be building your list, and you should have it down to a science to where you're getting 10, 50, 100 opt-ins per day, whatever the number is. Because if you can do that, magic's going to happen, right? And so she started to do that with her referral based cheat sheet and then end up growing her business through social media over 500K when I was working with her that was just through Facebook advertising at the time and altering the messaging. So that was a pretty cool success story too.
And then Dr. Brad.
Yeah, so Brad had a pretty successful practice in Canada, and he wanted to create more additional streams of income. And one of the things at that time he just had, I said, "Hey, this is what I'm doing. What resonates with you most?" And he's like, "Amazon sounds really intriguing." And we start talking about it and figuring out where the sweet spot might be. And with when he launched his first Amazon product, he did it was around 6,500 his first month gross, which is pretty impressive, especially for a first month on Amazon. And I mean, totally changed his life. And now he's been selling there for 8, 9 years. So that's really cool, right? And I never promise anyone any type of result, quite honestly, but I know, listen, if you're willing to work, if you're coachable, and you can not reinvent the wheel, you're going to see some big things that happen. But yeah, that was another cool story.
Man, I just want to thank you. This has been great. I love your lessons, your stories. I think they apply to any business. It applies not just to social, but just to business in general. Where should we point people towards online to learn more? I know I mentioned and people go to matthewloop.com. They can go to profit365.org/SMRS. Is there any other places that are good, or are those the best ones?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can absolutely follow me on my fan page on social media. Facebook is facebook.com/Matthew J Loop. Got over 105,000 followers over there. I think like 20,000 of those followers came from the machine gun video. So, but yeah, I mean, I still spend a lot of time on Facebook and Instagram. My handles are pretty much at Matthew Loop everywhere else. So any questions you have, absolutely, I'd love to connect with you and help.
Matthew, first I want to thank you. Check out the websites, check out more episodes of the podcast, and we'll see everyone next time. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Jeremy.
What I got, you can't buy. It resides between my eyes. Walked through the fire, came out better on the other side. See, life's like a beach if you find the sailing right now. I'm feeling like 100 grand.